DOTE.
Welcome to the tutorial about errors and warnings that you might find pop up every now and again when you're using DOTE. So we'll just try and illustrate in this tutorial some of the types of errors and what you can do maybe to solve them. And what you'll see here is a typical error that might happen when you open DOTE on a new session on the same day or another day, and you discover that you get this error because you've actually moved on the location, or the drive in which it's located is currently not online, meaning it's not plugged into your computer, for example. You're on an external drive, and therefore DOTE always tries to reopen the last known project and transcript. And here you can see the error is saying we can't locate that, so maybe you need to go and use one of the buttons here or from the file menu up here in order to locate or create a new project. So this is a typical error that pops up, which you need to close, which means that somehow we can't continue, and so something needs to be solved. In this case it's going to be quite easy. So I say to close this and then say open transcript, and then I'm going to look at the projects, and here I have the Lego demo projects, and what we can do is open the free demo and just do a little adjustment because this is not been set up yet to how I'd like it. What we're going to do is just enlarge it a little bit here. This is using F9 or F10, and so we get something that looks reasonable for this tutorial. So now we're back, and if I close DOTE now and reopened, then this same project and transcript would reopen because it's now located. But if I moved it again, then I get that same error. So watch out for errors popping up. They often interfere with progress, so you're going to have to solve it or close and do something to be able to move on. So that's the basic sort of errors to do with the running of DOTE. Then we have other errors, which is to do with the editor here on the right. And there are errors and warnings, and there's a range of these, and we're going to see that in a moment. At the moment, you can see in this transcript, if I scroll down, there are no errors or warnings. And up here on the top right, you'll see that there's this blue icon, which is for warnings, and a red icon, which is for errors. And if these are currently toggled on, if I click them, then they're toggled off, and if you hover over, you'll see a little message comes up. So if you don't want to see any errors or warnings, you can just toggle them off, but if you want to see them, you should toggle them back on. And the default, I think, when you start DOTE is that they're toggled on, so it's up to you from then on what you want to do. And that will apply to each transcript on a transcript by transcript basis. So what I'm going to do to show you some errors, I'm going to open again. We'll come back to this error that's come up here, which is in red. What we're going to choose is the free demo with errors, which we made one which has deliberate errors, and you can see immediately that the errors are highlighted here in red double underline and also italic, whereas in blue squiggly line in italic is a warning. And how they work, as you can see just then, if I just show you, I can turn them off so we don't see anything anymore in the editor and turn them back on. So this says in this line here, line 17, there's some problem, and it tries to give you the scope of that problem. So it's something to do with this segment here. And if I hover over, you'll see it comes up, missing closing symbol. And you can see because DOTE enforces pairing of certain symbols, and this softener here needs to have a closure. Otherwise we don't know, does it last only for a word or a phrase or the whole line? In this case, given the main line, and this is a translation line, we'd expect it to finish here at competitive in the translation. And we could fix that, and then the error would go away. Whereas, and there's another one down here, which is to do with missing overlap end symbol. And this is a good exercise to go through this, and you'll see if we go down, there are errors and warnings. I think there's only those at the beginning. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 errors and warnings, just for a little game to try and spot them. You can turn off errors and warnings and see if you can find them yourself. Where are the errors? Or now the warning is simply because we don't enforce it, but we prefer a certain layout and style in the conventions, and so we just give a little hint. So this one here, you can see P2 runs. This has got something missing, which you could leave off because you could guess that maybe the overlap is up to this point, but you might want to close it. This could just be a single line with an overlap marking with only the onset shown and not the offset. So if we could delete this one here, you'd see it says, okay, this line as well. So it's just a hint that maybe to do nice completion with onset and offsets of all overlaps, but you can just turn that off if you want, if you don't want to bother with that. Okay, so this will spot many errors, and if we just now open not only the Jeffersonian, but we have our demo with the Mondardian system, then you'll see that there are equally all sorts of errors, and these are often more complex. And you'll see this is about an alignment symbol. This was about a speaker name missing. That would occur with Jefferson as well. Isolated overlap line, invalid action end. There's at least 20 different types of errors that, and it will try to help you. For example, this one, it tells you which lines, maybe line 39, 54, there's a problem. So if you look at the line 39 where we are, and line 54 down here, you'll see that this says there's a continuation beyond the transcript, and yet it does continue down here at 54. So because of our subtier types here, we can track all of that and really help you find any errors that are very hard to see by a human eye. So this is the red errors, and the blue errors are warnings. That's only in the editor. So now we've done that, what we could see is, for example, with let's go back to the Jefferson one just for a simpler example. The Jefferson with errors is when you export to RTF or SRT, you'll find, and I'll just try that now, there's a panel at the top that says there's some errors, and it says at line 17, and this sometimes it does work, it does manage, but sometimes because of the type of error it doesn't know quite how to format, because it doesn't know what it is, it can't parse it. So if you can say show error in transcript, line 17 is down here, but if you want to see it in the transcript, it'll move to where that is. And of course it can't move exactly here because the transcript is not that long. And line 17 is this error here. If we fix that, then it would probably pick up on line 24 and we'll see that also for export to SRT. And this one is actually picking up, well, it doesn't mind 17 so much, but 24 is probably tricky for doing good subtitling, and so it cannot give you a preview. Export to SRT will give you RTF will give you a preview and will export, but SRT could be extremely disruptive for the subtitles, and so it won't give you a preview or export properly. So you need to fix that, and that's just the nature. We can't get around that, because if we can't in DOTE figure out what a line is doing, then we don't know how to, do we put it in the transcript, in the subtitle or in the export, to how do we line number it. If a speaker's name is missing, for example, and we need to add speaker names, as you can see here, show speaker names, then how are we going to do that, because we don't know what the line is. So there's some constraints we have. So if you conform to the types of formatting and conventions that we expect in DOTE, then you'll be able to have a nice output. Okay, so those are giving you some help about trying to resolve these problems. There are other errors, and that would be to do with, let me just go to the standard free with no errors, is in the video cues. You see down here, and if you don't know about video cues, you should look at that tutorial. These video cues, and if I just click on one here and then I say open, you see they're attached to a video source, in case this one here. The problem is that if I go now to Media Manager and I say I don't want that to be active, that source, and I take it off and I close, you'll see I've got a red error here, and it doesn't really know what to do anymore, because many of these are using that source. So you'll see little red icons down here, and if I take that and then put it back and make it active again and close, you'll see it all comes back. And we could equally do it with the other one. I make it inactive, which is the other video, and close. Again, well, it just can't show it. It's not showing a red error here because the first one is legitimate. Sometimes you'll see red icons all the way through, depending on the video cues. And there we are, they're back again. Because it doesn't know what video you're referring to, and so it cannot display those video cues. So watch out for the errors down here, because if you mess about with your media sources and deactivate them, then it's going to mess up your video cues, obviously, which are reliant on which video source. This could equally be true for the video that's showing. If it can't show it, then it's going to switch to another one or just not show a video because you've deactivated it. So those are the video cue timeline. Another type of error that you can get is if I go to open transcript, is this error here, and you can see it's highlighted in red, and it says orphaned transcripts at the top right, and it's showing here and it's showing here, and that means we have a transcript which I created, which has no project. It's actually in a folder which has no project information, but this exact same one is here inside a project with all the others. These 7 transcripts are all in a project. So if I go up, you'll see this is orphaned, meaning if you ever sort of move a transcript around without it being in a project, then you're going to have a problem, because we don't know what, if I try to open this, it can't open it because it's not in a project. It doesn't know what media it's referring to. It doesn't have the information necessary to build that project with the transcript. So that means it gives a clue. So that's another type of error. So let me just open one again, which is working. And the last thing to note is if I go to help, is we have log directory. Now if something seriously goes wrong and you'd like to log make an issue in our GitHub repository for DOTE, or you'd like to talk about it on the Discord channel, the public Discord channel, or if you're a DOTE Pro user or DOTE Pro community, then you'll have a special private channel for talking about issues directly with the developers. Then you can include the log directory, and if you don't know where that is, then you just open here, and a log directory has opened here, which has a bunch of files, and then each one of these is a log file of a particular session. So what you can do is just copy the latest one where the error happened, and include that in an email message or on the GitHub repository, in an new issue, or in Discord on the right channel. You may need to be aware, of course, that there may be information in the log file which you might not want to share with others. It could have certain path names or file names, so you may not wish to share that directly, but only with the developers, not in a public channel, so be aware of that. Okay, so that's a bunch of different types of errors that can occur. Some of them could be very serious, some of them could be bugs, and some of them could be problems with your own transcript or your own project, and you need to solve those yourself. That's the end of the errors and warnings tutorials, but hopefully you don't have too many errors and warnings in using DOTE.